All right, on a windy Tuesday, on a windy mountain, it's time to do a year-long review of the Propain Hugene. When I bought this bike, it was a bit of a gamble, because I essentially moved from the Propain Spindrift to something that's a lot shorter in terms of travel. And I wasn't sure whether it can actually handle the stuff that I'm usually riding. So I want to post this, so maybe people who are contemplating whether they should get something long travel, something shorter, or something in between, have a valid comparison between the Spindrift, which I did a review a while back, you can watch it here, or getting the Hugene, which is much shorter travel, and it's, you know, meant for different stuff. So yeah, let's see how it goes. This is the Propain Hugene. It's one of the most critically acclaimed trail bikes out there. Like a lot of the modern companies, modern review sites, channels and so on reviewed this bike and said it's amazing. I absolutely agree with that. Now this definitely is one of the best trail bikes out there, especially when we're talking about the short to mid travel segment. Propain by default offers this in 140mm front and 140mm back. Since I wanted this to be a bit of a downhill machine as well as climb up well, I actually got it with 150mm front and 140mm back. If you're gonna get this short of a travel of a trail bike, you are probably looking for something that can handle whole day rides, epics, and so on and so on. Meaning, it has to climb well, and it also has to handle the downhills relatively easy. Well, I'm very happy to say that this actually fits the bill. One thing I'd say I was surprised by was the fact that I need to lock up the rear suspension, even though it's the, what was it, the Pro 10 linkage, the same as the Spindrift. And I'm surprised because the Spindrift, which had 180mm in the back, had a coil spring, I didn't need to lock up, right? That one nearly had zero pedal bob when I was climbing, while this one, if I don't lock it, it's very noticeable and it's not ideal. Now, one of the things that I would do a bit different is I would get a 30-tooth front ring instead of a 32. It will give it a bit of an edge on steeper climbs, and overall it will make the experience climbing a bit better. The one thing I changed is the cockpit. I basically got a new stem and a new handlebar because the one that come with the bike are definitely not ideal. I got a bit of a higher rise for that downhill performance, and the stem is a bit shorter than the one that they usually offer. You have options to configure that on the site itself, although that may slow up your delivery date. One of the most amazing things about this bike is how quiet it is. I don't know what they did with the internal routing, but this is one of the most quiet bikes I have ever experienced in my life. The rear hub is so silent that at times I even think I got a no ratchet hub, which is amazing. Like, this is completely mind-blowing. So kudos to Propain for doing this. A quiet bike is a fast bike. Overall, this bike is amazingly well built, and if you saw my assembly video, you know that Propain did most of the things well. One thing I noticed, and this was when I did my first suspension service, was that the spacers on the bottom pivot of my shock either aren't correct, meaning they're a bit wider than they should be, or the lower linkage, this thing right here, might actually be not up to spec, because I needed to essentially file off a bit of the ends when I put the shock back, and I had an extremely hard time getting it out. So yeah, one thing that probably wasn't ideal is this. Everything else I would say is amazingly well done, and it's basically perfect. The last thing that I want to mention that you probably would want to do is add inserts in your tires. I did for both. You might need that just for the rear, but it is just for a peace of mind. It's a shorter travel bike and I ride stuff that can get rough from time to time. I want to protect my rims, so yeah, I added inserts. Might be a good idea to do that too. I am running the Magura MT7s again, and again I probably wouldn't go with those in the future. Very fiddly to tune up, bleeding them is a nightmare, and yeah, next time I'm probably gonna go with Shimano XTs. Alright, so who is this bike for? Well, this is a bike for the everyday guy who wants to have it all. One bike that does everything. Climbs well, descends well, exceptionally well actually. And basically you are buying this and you're forgetting about everything else. It can do laps in your local trail, you can ride it in the park. It's perfect for everyone. Now, one thing I would want to see that would make this a bit more budget-friendly option is an alloy frame, because this is carbon and that can get expensive. Like, it's not perfect for everyone. So Propain, if you're listening, Hugene in aluminum, perfection. And with that, I think I'm gonna close it up for today. If you liked the video, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. If you want to see more of this, subscribe. And for now, let's see how this thing rips. So, let's see. This, by the way, is the ideal trail for the Hugene. So you can get an idea of what it means. By the way, this is the brake, and because you can't get the pads not to rub, you can resonate and whistle. This is because of the Maguras. Yeah! Another thing I didn't mention before was that you might want to have clipless pedals with this bike, because especially on the rougher stuff can get a bit too chunky, like in here for example, and just having the peace of mind that you can't really lose the pedals can help you a lot. Now again, this is the perfect trail for this. It's a very fast, flowy trail that, especially after rain, is perfect because you have a ton of traction. But yeah, you can hear how quiet it is. Like, the only thing you hear are essentially the rotors scrubbing against the pads, or pads against the pad, one way or the other. But that's it, everything else is quiet. Maybe the occasional chain slap, but a bit of a better derailleur, can't say that, the derailleur, and you might get a quiet drivetrain too. So it is a very quiet bike, a very quiet bike. And in here you really can feel the suspension working, and it can work well. Whew. Nice. Alright, first little bit of tech section, there we go. Oh, and in this I feel my pedals kind of bopping below me, under my feet, and being clipped in would help a lot. This one was fine, no issues here. That was it. The perfect trail for the Hugene. Whew. Flow, a bit of thick here and there, but it's ideal. It can handle much rougher stuff than this as well. But yeah, you have to be mindful. Like, it's not a magic carpet. Neither was the Spindrift, of course, but in there, like, it would forgive some of the mistakes. Like, the suspension could give you a bit of leeway, while in here it's much more responsive and snappy, and you can't really get away with much. You have to be a bit more precise on the thick stuff. It doesn't forgive you as much as the other one. So, food for thought. I love this bike, honestly.